Hello viewers, welcome to English for My World. Well, in the previous program, we looked at how to speak effectively, or what are the key strategies that are important to enable one to become an effective speaker. Because a person is weighed by the words that he speaks, that he uses. And in all the areas of life, whether it is formal context or informal context, we need to speak. For instance, there are two areas of influencing or two areas of communicating. One is persuasion and dissuasion. We also spoke about these two topics in one of the programs. When we persuade someone, we will try to influence the person or impact the person by the logic or by the kind of thoughts that we have to talk to him. And when we dissuade a person, we will try to help the person change his decision, because we feel like he has taken a wrong decision. So we will try to help the person, support the person to change the decision, because we think that the decision taken is wrong. In fact, we have two or three areas of the rhetoric or speech: logos, pathos, and ethos. Logos is using logic while communicating or speaking, using logic. And pathos is actually emotionally trying to influence the listener or the audience. And ethos is nothing but morals or values. Based on the morals and values, we try to influence the listeners. Okay, right. So when we talk about logic, we talk about a strong example or strong evidence to influence the person. And maybe, for instance, for example, when one party has decided to give free power to farmers, the other party criticized it that will be impossible. But when the ruling party shows it in terms of figures, in terms of effective implementation, that becomes logos. And the leaders or politicians make the most of this logos or logic, supporting their speech with the help of logic during the course of communication or during the course of speaking. Similarly, pathos, they try to emotionally influence the listeners, or the leaders, the speakers, they try to emotionally impact the listeners or the audience. For instance, imagine a leader has passed away. We know that our heart beats with a sound that is, it contracts and it expands. If we give a sound to the heart such as lup, dub, lup, dub, as a leader is taking the name of the politician and he says, now the hearts are beating with the name of the person who passed away. So in both the contraction and in expansion. So he's trying to emotionally influence them. Or it can also be based on the morals or the ethics that is followed by the speaker, because he is himself a role model, an exemplary, and a sort of icon. Then we also use ethos in speaking. Well, this is all the introduction that I have for effective speaking or efficient speaking. So in the previous program, we looked at several areas such as voice quality, breath control, clarity, intonation, pace, and body language. And the importance of communication is in all the areas of our life. It can be presentations, PowerPoint presentations, general presentations, it can be speeches, most importantly, or it can be group discussions, or interviews, or meetings with clients or colleagues or friends. Now, let us look at the rest of the areas that are important, that are crucial, are vital for effective speaking. The rest of the key strategies. What is the meaning of a strategy? Strategy is a careful plan or a careful method. The way we devise, the way we plan or talk is key strategy or effective strategy here. Now the rest of the areas, rest of the key strategies that we are going to discuss today are eye contact, and the next one is precision. By the word precision, I mean to say preciseness, brevity, short and sweet. And the next area is politeness, being polite, courteous, respecting the feelings of the audience, their questions, their ideas, views and opinions, even at times their disagreements, because they disagree at times, they don't agree with the speaker, or criticism. Disagreements are criticism, how to handle it during the course of speaking, or during the course of oral talk, verbal talk. And the last but not the least, which is very, very important, that is listening. In fact, it is always said that we should listen more and speak less, so that we can understand the other person before we speak. Well, speaking is equally important. These two go hand in hand. A good listener is a good speaker, and a good speaker is an attentive listener. Okay, let us now start our discussion with the first one, that is eye contact. So what sort of eye contact should be maintained during the course of communication or during the course of speaking? One should maintain friendly eye contact with the audience, with the listeners. Well, we know very well that speakers usually look at cheerful faces, happy faces, because those cheerful faces are driving factors, are driving forces for the speaker. Generally, speakers do not like to look at the faces that are dull, that are not very expressive, that are not very positive in the way they are responding, they are reacting to the talk or to the communication that is happening. So usually speakers like to look at happy faces, cheerful faces. That is one. So there is nothing wrong in looking at happy faces during the course of communication. However, the eye contact should be maintained properly with all the listeners. All of them needs eye contact, so that they should feel that they are also involved in the discussion, and they should feel like listening to the speaker. When the eye contact is not proper, it is something like the speaker is not interested in the audience, or he is not interested in looking at the listeners. It sends negative signals about the speaker. The listeners or the audience, they feel like this man may be arrogant, or he may be, that reflects at times even pride on the part of the speaker. So maintain friendly eye contact, maintain uniform eye contact with all the listeners. Uniform eye contact with the audience is something extremely important. And when we maintain proper eye contact, along with eye contact, even a cheerful face is equally important, because the audience or the listeners, they observe everything. They observe from head to toe of the speaker. So in addition to all the previous things like voice quality, breath control, pace, maintaining proper speed, proper pace, or intonation, modulation of voice, in addition to all that we discussed previously, in addition to maintaining proper body language, because it is always said that we should know how to dress and how to address. So dressing and addressing both are equally important. A person who is talking excellently about a particular topic is very shabbily dressed, or the dress is not appropriate, the dress code is not very appropriate to the context, the audience are definitely switched off. So one should be properly dressed and one should be properly addressing to the audience. Both are equally important. Both are very significant areas. Fine, right. Now coming to the next aspect, or the other aspect of communication, that is precision. Precision. What is precision? Well, usually in précis writing, we have letter writing, we have essay writing, we also have précis writing. So the word précis meaning condensing or cutting it short, making it precise, brief, brevity. So we also call it as short and sweet. Short and sweet. In other words, that should be succinct. S-U-C-C-I-N-C-T, succinct. So when the subject, when the topic that is being addressed, or when the theme that is being addressed is very vast, very lengthy, that will create boredom in the audience, that will create impatience in the audience. So ensure that you stick to your topic. Do not get deviated or distracted during the course of conversation or during the course of discussion. Use sufficient examples or facts to substantiate the talk. And most importantly, try to be as focused as possible. Do not use too many irrelevant examples or too many unnecessary examples, because a speaker should know what to speak and what not to speak. In fact, what is important here is what not to speak is more important than what to speak there. Maybe, out of excitement or out of enthusiasm, the speaker wants to use several examples there, several anecdotes there, that may or may not interest the audience or interest the listeners. So one should be careful about being precise, being to the point throughout the course of talk. In fact, what happens when a lengthy essay is cut short? We will try to avoid lengthy statements. We will try to use a shorter word in the place of a longer word. Instead of saying, I would like to meet you, we can also say, I want to meet you. So, those colloquial or cliches, by the word cliche, I mean to say repetitions. Our repetitions have to be avoided. Those repetitive words or repetitive phrases and expressions may create boredom, may create impatience among the audience. So try to be as precise, as focused, and even the kind of plan, the kind of strategy about duration. When we talk about precision, when we talk about the brevity of it, when we divide the time properly, that this part will be introduction will be maybe for 5 minutes or 6 minutes or whatever, and then goes the subheadings or the other sub areas, and then comes the conclusion, and that's it. So the way we divide the time is equally important in the case of this precision or in the case of this brevity of the communication, or brevity of the speech that's being given. Fine. So that's about the second area, that is precision. I am now going to the third one, that is politeness. Politeness, also known as courteousness. Well, try to be polite and try to be courteous with the audience. Any sort of arrogant behavior, any sort of adamant behavior might send negative signals on the part of the speaker. And most importantly, the criticism, or most importantly, disagreements have to be dealt very carefully and very respectfully. If the listener is disagreeing, the speaker has to be patient. The speaker should not lose the patience. And during the course of conversation or during the course of interaction or communication, nowhere the speaker should not convey to the audience that he is losing his patience or he is trying to be a bit bossy during the course of talk. So throughout, that sort of respect and that sort of politeness or courteousness has to be maintained. Audience or listeners do observe these things very carefully. In fact, we know very well that even the feedback is taken. The crucial aspect of any sort of presentation or any sort of talk or speech here is feedback, review, remarks of the audience. So all these things are carefully observed by the listeners. They are carefully evaluated. In fact, the speaker is evaluated by the audience, by the listeners. How is his body language? How is his posture? How are his facial expressions, gestures, emotions? What sort of language does he use? Is he comfortable? Is he maintaining that ease? How humorous or how comfortable he is while presenting the ideas? How crisp, how natural, and how knowledgeable. Of course, that is something extremely important, because the knowledge that the speaker has is conveyed to the audience based on examples, based on his logic, based on his expertise, mastery over the subject. So all these things are very carefully evaluated and very carefully observed in various talks, in various presentations, at various places, be it workplace or be it a general meeting. So do not forget to maintain that politeness, that proper body language. Your politeness speaks volumes about you as an effective speaker. The way you handle the audience, their queries, their disagreements, their doubts, and most importantly, their criticism, because we cannot expect all the listeners to be very positive and very friendly and very coordinating. We can, just like in a classroom we have some naughty students, we can definitely expect some, we may not call them as troublemongers, but definitely people who are differently thinking, people who differently react and who differently respond to the talk or to the communication. So the speaker should always be ready to handle such listeners, such audience, with proper politeness, with proper respect, and most importantly, maintaining that politeness throughout the talk is something extremely important. Even negative criticism has to be properly handled. Even if there is some mistake on the part of the speaker, he should honestly admit it and thank the audience or thank the listener, and then proceed to the next course of communication or to the next point of communication. So in addition to these key strategies for effective speaking, the last but not the least is listening. Well, even in the skills of communication, listening comes first. Listening followed by speaking, and reading followed by writing. So when it comes to listening, in fact, in the very beginning of these programs, we did a lengthy session, an in-depth session on listening. When a speaker listens to the audience, or when the speaker listens to the listeners, he has to listen to them very respectfully and attentively, because unless he listens to them attentively and with respect, he cannot respect the doubts of the audience or the listeners. He may ignore some of the important points that they are trying to suggest to include in his course of conversation or course of communication. Because some of the ideas that are expressed by listeners and that are expressed by audience at times are amazing. They are thought provoking and out of the box. They are like flashlights to the speaker which never occurred to him, which never actually made sense to him. So while listening to the audience or to the listeners, an effective speaker is always attentive, and an effective speaker is always pays respect to the views and opinions provided by them. Only then the listeners will feel that they are valued and they are taken into confidence by the speaker. Otherwise they feel like they are not taken into account or taken into consideration by the speaker. Well, when it comes to listening, there are several kinds of listening again. Attentive listening, casual listening, just listening, all these things. Appreciative listening, for example, we listen songs to appreciate the music. We listen to music to appreciate the kind of music. Similarly, we listen to lectures through attentive listening. Whenever it is an interesting lecture, the kind of listening that is done there is attentively focused listening, and even just listening for that matter. But casual listening, for example, we are doing a work and we are also listening to the songs on headphones. So in fact we are not very attentively and very focusedly listening to the songs that are played. We are enjoying the songs, simultaneously we are working, so that becomes casual listening. So casual listening at times is okay, but most importantly attentive listening or just listening is something very important. So viewers, that's all about the key strategies that I wanted to present in this session, beginning from the eye contact to precision or brevity or focused kind of talk, or sticking to the point, not getting deviated or distracted from the point, and yes, maintaining that friendly eye contact so that everybody is considered, so that the listeners feel like listening to the speaker, and the listeners are all paid due attention. They are all paid proper attention during the course of conversation. Politeness, which is extremely important on the part of the speaker, so that the listeners are at ease and they feel like their ideas are taken into account, their disagreements or their most importantly criticism is properly considered. And the last but not the least, as we discussed, is listening, because we know that an attentive listener is an effective speaker, and an effective speaker is an attentive listener. So viewers, keep all these key strategies in mind, beginning from voice quality to breath control. Maintain your voice quality properly. Do not speak neither at a very high pitch nor at a very low pitch kind of thing. Maintain the breath. Take deep breaths, long breaths. That will give you the relaxation, the energy, and most importantly, you can speak for a reasonable time, and that sends positive signals that reflects your expertise, your mastery, and your confidence levels are properly reflected when the breathing is properly maintained, breath is properly controlled. Clarity, yes, do not swallow the words, do not swallow the sentences, pronounce them properly, pronounce them clearly, so that the listener or the audience properly can follow you. Intonation, about modulation of voice, rising tone, falling tune, rising, falling, or falling and then rising tune, neutral tune, wherever it is necessary, according to the situation, according to the context, try to modulate your voice. Coming to the pace, the speed at which you speak, the kind of speed that you maintain throughout the talk. Also that speed has to be variated, modulated, so that the audience do not feel it a boring kind of stuff, a monotonous, a kind of same routine kind of stuff. And body language, proper body language, maintaining proper posture while standing, maintaining using your fingers, your facial expressions properly. The smile that improves your face value, try to maintain proper smile. Let your body language be pleasant and comfortable body language. Yes, eye contact, that should be listener friendly eye contact. I would call it as listener friendly eye contact, like user friendly. Here it is listener friendly. Maintain that friendly eye contact so that the listeners or the audience are they are taken into account and they are considered properly throughout the course of conversation. Precision, as we discussed, the brevity of speech, or the focused talk without getting deviated or distracted. Politeness that need to be maintained, and yes, be an attentive and respectful listener. Respect their ideas, respect the views and opinions that are conveyed by the listeners during the course of conversation. And remember, by maintaining all these key strategies, these will be highly beneficial as we discussed in your presentations. And most importantly, never ever forget that your entire spoken communication or your entire oral communication is evaluated, that is being judged by the listeners. So you will receive the feedback, you will receive your review or remarks. So be rated as an effective speaker by your listeners, not like a kind of boring or a kind of monotonous kind of speaker. Be rated as an effective and efficient speaker and prove yourself as a confident user of English language. Thank you very much for watching.